In the world of Web3, NFTs, cryptocurrency, and the metaverse, things move really quickly. It can often seem that a week exploring and staying updated in Web3, NFTs, or cryptocurrency is equivalent to 6 months in the real world, as far as innovation and advances in technology are concerned. It truly is a space that's moving more and more on a lightning network, both literally and figuratively. And it's this speed in the development of the blockchain ecosystems and metaverse that allow content creators like my guest today to thrive. Bon Jen is located out of Los Angeles, California, and he provides the world a priceless commodity at a time of overinflated and uncertain global markets. Bon provides clarity through his social media posted content, and it resonates with both insiders and outsiders of the blockchain ecosystems and metaverse space. On this episode, Bon and I discuss crypto, long-term investing either in Bitcoin versus Ethereum, NFTs, the metaverse, and much more. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is More Than Blockchain. Bon, how are you doing? Welcome to More Than Blockchain.
I am doing phenomenal. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great day.
Absolutely. I saw one of your videos, a reel that you did. You know what it was? It was on TikTok. I saw something that you had put up, and I've just followed your stuff, and I was like, I really want to pick his brain on everything, because I think that's like the beauty of Web3. You come across people, and then you're like, I want to know what they think on these things. So just to start out, how long have you been around crypto, Web3, NFTs, blockchain? I don't really even know. I call it the blockchain ecosystem. I don't really even know. How long have you been around it? And yeah, give us a little background on your story.
So I've been around it or the blockchain, Web3, crypto space, whatever people are calling it these days. I've been around it since 2017. 2017 is when I got into it. A little background about me for people listening. I am a cryptocurrency educator, I guess you could say. I know a fair amount about it, and I teach people about it on the internet because it's an incredibly new space, and there's not a whole lot of information out there. So I make videos on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and podcasts as well. Basically, just educating people, mostly on the basics, and sometimes I throw a little bit of news in there. But anyway, I've been into the space since 2017. I was in college, and I studied cybersecurity and information science in college. And some guy did a presentation on Bitcoin. It was on Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin. And it was this really small cybersecurity class, and nobody was really paying attention, but he was talking about it, and he was really passionate about it. And it caught my attention because he was talking about he was saying this is the computer network that's going to allow people to send money to each other online without a bank. And I don't know why, for some reason that caught my attention. And so I started doing research, and if I can recall correctly, I think the price of Bitcoin at the time was $3,000. Ethereum was maybe a couple hundred or something, and Litecoin was under 100 for sure. And I didn't really care about the price. I was just doing a whole bunch of research. And then I started investing in it slowly. And I would tell anybody who would listen about this Bitcoin thing. And what I noticed was not a lot of people cared. And so I was really confused because I was like, do these people just not see what I'm seeing? But now looking back, it's because my friends weren't studying computer stuff like I was. So they didn't really care. So anyway, the crash of I think 2018 happened, and I kind of lost interest in it, but I still studied it here and there. And then the pandemic started, and I started studying it more, started investing in it a little bit. And then I realized that I had a good amount of knowledge to not be making videos about it, because my main thing is since I've been a little kid has been a video producer, just making YouTube videos about random stuff. So I was like, oh, this could make a great some great YouTube content. So I started making YouTube videos, and for the first couple months, the YouTube channel didn't do super well. It was very, very slow. because all the videos that were blowing up were like about like sheep coin and like those low cap coins that go crazy that make you a millionaire overnight. And then I took the educational content to TikTok, and that like really kind of blew me up a little bit, and that in turn blew up my YouTube a little bit too. So now here we are. I just make educational content on TikTok.
And I think it's full circle because that is where I originally saw you, was on TikTok. And I have a similar arc with my cryptocurrency. It started in 2017. At the same time, I think a lot of people that are now huge hodlers now maybe got in 2017, and I got in, and then in the crash I just never sold. And I be honest, I forgot about it because in the bear market I didn't know what I know now. And I remember that same feeling of being like, what are people not seeing? Because I'm seeing it. What are they not seeing? And I think a lot of it maybe was my messaging. And like you said, people didn't have that computer science and information kind of like brain. So maybe they couldn't get it. But I just think I wasn't able to message it like I can now. And I think it's also gotten a lot more like culturally acceptable. Everyone kind of has an idea now of what Bitcoin is. Even if people now, I find like, even if people now have a bad taste in their mouth and they call it a Ponzi scheme or they say something, I actually don't mind that because I think like it creates a moment of education. But, you know, because I think the worst thing is apathy when someone's like, oh, I just don't care about that.
Yeah.
I would rather them hate on it because I feel like there's an opportunity there to maybe say, hey, okay, well, why do you think it's a Ponzi scheme or whatever? And I was very interested when I was getting ready for this episode because it's kind of weird. Like when I get ready for an episode, I like stalk people. I'm like, oh, okay, watch some YouTubes, watch some TikToks, watch some Reels, check out your website. And I saw on your website that you offer calls. People can hop on and be like, Bon, these are my questions. And I'm pretty sure, I think it's through Clarity, something I've never heard of. I'm going to probably open up my own account maybe because I have conversations with people all the time anyways. And talk to me about that experience of getting on calls. I'm assuming like with kind of random people, just kind of like the way you and I met, talking about stuff. And then what's something that like constantly comes up, a question that people have that you did not expect? Because that's what I'm always interested about. Because, you know, I feel like you and I are staring at these paintings all day for like an analogy, and we're like, oh, that's beautiful, whatever that is. You know, like we're in the galleries, we're in the museums, we're around it. And for people on the outside, I'm always constantly interested about what are people's like biggest gripes and what are the mental leaps that sometimes they just can't make.
So a lot of the calls, well, most of the calls I've been getting are like older people that are like, maybe they just retired. They're like in their 60s and 70s, and they have kids, and a lot of them are saying, oh, my kids aren't patient enough to explain this to me. I was sitting on my couch. I found your TikTok. You sound like a nice young man. Can you explain this to me? And they say like,
first of all, that's just okay. All right. If you're listening to this and you don't know who Bon is, that's fine. You're going to hop on Instagram. He'll give a shout out after, or TikTok or YouTube. And he has this, you're totally right. You have this feel where you're just sitting on a couch and you make it seem it's like the Mr. Rogers of cryptocurrency.
oh my God.
Because
so
you
funny.
like create an environment where education is cool. And I think people totally connect because that's honestly, I saw your stuff and I'm like, I love the way he said that. I don't know if I could say it that well and that succinctly. So, okay, sorry, I kind of cut you off, but older people are like, my kids won't explain it. They don't have any patience. And then there you are on the phone.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. I love that.
It's not a dig, I promise. It's not a dig.
No, I love that. I'm gonna like use that somehow in the future.
Okay.
But no, yeah. So like yeah, they'll call me and they'll be like, hey, so I don't really understand these NFT things. Don't really understand Bitcoin. I don't get how these people are like making millions of dollars off these pictures. Can you explain it to me? So basically what I do is I explain to them how blockchain works, and I basically gauge if they have an understanding of things on the computer. They aren't real. It's just computer code. So you can't really say something is like worth something like you can in the physical world, because you can just copy and paste anything in the digital world because it's just data at the end of the day. And they're like, yeah, I understand that basic truth. And I'm like, okay, so what this new technology blockchain allows us to do is it allows us to keep track of any kind of data so that we know that this is the original. It can still be copy and pasted, whatever, but it's not going to have the same ledger. because there can only be one ledger going back to the first transaction or however the hands are traded, whatever. So they're like, okay, I understand that. And then I like attach that to crypto or money. Then you have cryptocurrency. Then I attach that to like NFTs. Then you have basically what everyone's trading around. And then they get the question, okay, that makes sense. These images are scarce. Why are they worth $3 million bajillion dollars? And I tell them, I don't know. Like this whole thing, this whole craze right now is like the .com bubble. It's 100% a craze. However, the technology, NFTs, will be around forever. It'll touch everything digital. I'm pretty certain. But in 2030, we're going to look back to 2021, 2022 and be like, wow, that was ridiculous. Like how overinflated and priced these things were. And it's kind of inversely tied with like the price of Ethereum too. So when Ethereum is going crazy, then the price of these things go crazy. So yeah, that's basically how I break it down.
I think that's excellent. And you've just opened up so many different points I want to go on. But I think one of the things that I loved about your answer, and I think this is true for anybody in Web3, and I'm hypersensitive about this, is that when someone says they know something, like no one knows. Anyone who says that they know in crypto or Web3 or NFTs what's going to happen, other than understanding the technology, the underlying blockchain, but to like say they know what's going to happen in the future is crazy. Or even if they understand the market forces that are, making a Bored Ape worth $400,000 or selling for $4 million. I was just, as we were talking before we were recording, I was recently in Colombia and talking with somebody about this, and they just couldn't understand. And as much as I tried to like draw parallels to it, because I'm like, well, people pay $350 to have molded plastic because Kanye says easy slides, right? Like people will go out and buy a different type of backpack, even though the backpack you have is $10 and has utility. They'll buy a backpack because of brand. And that was like where I was trying to build the bridge between utility and brand, because that really at the end of the day is the difference between Bored Ape Yacht Club and any of the other derivative ape NFT collections. Obviously, yes, utility, you get to go to these yacht parties that I just saw in New York City, and which seems kind of cool, I guess. Is it worth a couple $1 million? I don't know. But I think that that's really important, saying that you don't know, because I think any good teacher is a forever student. So that's like exciting to hear. And then I want to talk about the craze and the parallel to the .com bubble, because I think that it's probably fairly accurate into how maybe overvalued some of these projects are. Maybe some of them actually are undervalued at the same time. If there's a lot of overvaluing, so other things are undervalued. What do you think happens? And like, I just asked you to not tell me like for sure what's going to happen, but like, what do you think is a possibility of what could happen over the next, we're coming up with the summer of 2022. Like I said, like you said, we'll listen back to this in 10 years and be like, oh my God, Bored Apes were actually undervalued, or Bored Apes were overvalued. And how much of that is tied obviously to the coin price? Because I think you're dead on. A lot of people are like, oh my God, my floor price has gone up a lot. But I'm like, yeah, but the price of Ethereum has gone down in real terms. So the overall economic fiat value of that is almost the same as it was. So where do you think in the next 12 months, where are we going to be next summer when it comes to the NFTs? Is Bored Apes going to be up? Is it going to be down? Are at the projects that you own, where are they going to be? If you want to talk about some of your projects, etc.
A year from now is too soon for me to make like an accurate, well, nothing's accurate, like you said, well, a good enough speculation. But I did want to say, yeah, you were right. Branding is like a huge deal too. Like just the fact that you can hold an NFT in your wallet and everybody knows that you have one of the Bored Apes is a huge deal. So there's definitely some value there. But in terms of like, if I were to like go out and look at 5 years in relation to the .com bubble, I don't know what exactly like 100% like triggered it. But the thing that was interesting about the .com bubble is it wasn't just a couple of these giants these previous giants that imploded. It was everything. The entire .com market fell. So when the crypto market inevitably has another crash, which I think is going to happen because it happens every couple of years, the entire market is going to crash. So if Bitcoin and Ethereum go down, there's really no reason for all these NFT projects to stay where they're at. Because, and I touch on this in my TikToks, like people need to believe in the technology behind Bitcoin and the technology behind Ethereum in order for everything to basically stay up. Now, things can stay up temporarily for sure, but you know, the fire can only like be so hot for so long. So if you look at like the previous year, everything was going crazy in terms of the NFT and the, I like to call it the crypto casino market with your Sheebs and your Doge, Elon, poop coins. All of those had room to go crazy because Ethereum was going nuts and Bitcoin was going nuts, right? So people had super confidence in the market. So when this next bear market happens, and we could be in it right now, who knows? But I think a true bear market would be like 25K or lower. When this next bear market happens, like let's say it happens next summer, I think NFTs are going to be down as well. Let's say next summer Bitcoin's at 200K. NFTs will probably be doing all right, you know, because there's confidence in the market. 10 years down the line, though, I'm not sure. If I had to guess, I would say it's not going to be like it is now.
In what sense?
That NFTs are like a couple $1 million. I do think they're going to have value, but I think people are going to pay more attention to the tangible utility. Can I go to a concert with this NFT? Can I have lifetime access to Coachella? Can I chill with Quentin Tarantino whenever I want? Or like, can I just play a video game? You know, like it's gonna be like stuff like that. Or is this NFT my college degree and I can put it in my wallet and everybody knows I went to Harvard because it's tied to Harvard's Ethereum wallet on the blockchain? Or maybe this NFT is the deed to my house, you know, tied straight to the city. You know, it's gonna be more stuff like that.
What project right now, just staying with NFTs for a second, what project, if money weren't an object and you were like, oh yeah, I can just go pick that up, what project would you pick up if you could pick up one, keeping in mind what you're talking about, like real world utility? Because for me, the projects that I am a part of, and there's actually going to be an NFT for this podcast, which you will get as a guest, I'm just focusing on two things: experience and exclusivity. That's it. Those are like my two pillars. Everything has to have equal parts. So like if you could get any NFT right now, which one would it be?
So because there's like so much uncertainty in this market, I definitely wouldn't pick up anything like super popular because I'm not really an NFT trader. But if we get to the point where, like you said, like you're making an NFT for this podcast, if we get to the point where it becomes mainstream or like normal for people to create NFTs or tokenize their projects, because I do think it's going to happen, I will definitely be buying NFTs or tokens for like things I care about. Like, for example, let's say a musical artist who's like 22 years old in Los Angeles is like starting out and he has like 10,000 followers on SoundCloud or something, and he's like, hey guys, you guys are my first fans. I'm gonna make 10,000 lil whatever tokens, and you guys can like buy them if you want. I'm gonna hold half of them because this half is gonna fund my career. This is gonna take me on tour. This is gonna like pay for my studio time. So if people enjoy the music, they'll like trade. The fans will trade it amongst themselves. And then if the music is good and as the person gets more famous, then obviously that coin is going to become more valuable in price. So if it was like $1 in 2022 and 2026, when this guy is performing at Coachella, maybe his token is $200. And like somebody that's like a super fan is like, yo, I love this guy so much. I want to prove that I'm the biggest fan. So I'm going to buy up as much of his tokens as I want. And because I own his tokens or his NFTs, I get to chill with him when he comes to my city on tour. And I can prove that it's not fake because we can check the blockchain. And I bought it from this fan, who bought it from this fan, who bought it from this fan. And on top of that, every time you can program these things, every time it's sold, the original person gets a kickback, and you can make it so each person that sells it gets a kickback as well. So you're literally like investing in projects like the stock market that like you see could like blow up into the future. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of things. I think that's going to, I don't want to say like, it's going to disrupt the music industry for sure, because that kind of takes like a record label's job. But there's a lot of smart people in the music industry that are like already on top of this. So they're probably going to coexist.
I think they'll probably coexist. I don't see, like, I could see Sony just being like, oh, all of our artists now are going to get NFTs, or figuring out a way, maybe rebalancing the contracts so the artists just get more instead of, because Sony would be wise to say, hey, we're going to give you 30% more than to lose you for 100%, because now you're going to go off into NFT world, hire someone like Bon Jen and then figure it out,
Yeah.
Do you think, and I was watching one of your videos before, and you were, talking about, hey, if grandma asks you how to invest, and you're sitting around the dinner table or whatever, and you roll up, for Easter, and you see her at Easter, and she's like, hey, how do I get started? And you give a shout out to Coinbase. Like, what are your hopes for Coinbase's NFT marketplace?
I think that it has the potential to definitely bring NFTs more mainstream than they are now. So like the biggest thing with NFTs is that they're just so not user friendly. You need like a 60-page manual on like how to mint or like own one of these things. And I remember like my first time messing with NFTs, I was thinking like, dude, if I'm like struggling with this, how can I explain this to like my grandmother if she ever like were to get into this? Like this is hard. So hearing that Coinbase is going to be messing around with this space along with Instagram too is very exciting. Hopefully they do it correctly though. I've been very like vocal about how some platforms like totally like miss the mark when it comes to NFT distribution. What's the company called? There's this company called Veve. Veve. I've made a TikTok on them, and I don't think so, but I feel like Disney might own this company. So basically there's a bunch of like NFTs you can buy on this app, Veve, like Marvel, Disney. I think there might be like some Cartoon Network stuff on there too. What you do on this app is like, so you deposit real money, right? And then it turns it into this like Veve currency, which you use to purchase the NFT. But the problem is that you can't send the NFT anywhere outside of the app. And you also can't transfer the money from the token back to USD. Last I checked, which was a couple weeks ago. So that's like a huge issue. That pretty much defeats the purpose of NFTs, which are supposed to be interoperable. You should be able to send them to whatever wallet you want, because like the whole thing about cryptocurrency is owning it. So if you can't send it outside of the platform, that means it could be taken from you like at any time. So therefore you don't own it. It's the same thing as buying cryptocurrency on Robinhood. If for anyone not familiar, if you buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or Dogecoin, I think Sheep's on there too now, on Robinhood, it's not like an actual wallet. They say they're going to change this. I don't know if they have yet, but like you don't own it because you can't send it where you want to send it.
I saw your video on that, and I originally I had like $100 or something, and I'm opening up Robinhood as I talk. I originally bought like $120 of Doge when it was under a cent, and I bought it on my Robinhood, and I was like, okay, cool, this is great. I've got crypto on Robinhood. It was the only thing I had on Robinhood. All my other crypto are on bigger exchanges, and I remember then realizing I couldn't take it off, and then all of a sudden it like meant nothing to me, even though I'd gone up 3,000% or whatever, on some ungodly amount. It just wasn't. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's like if you have all your Bitcoin on a ledger and you forget your seed, you forget your phrase, it's worth nothing. Like if you can't move it around, it's worth nothing. So I think that that's huge. I don't see Coinbase doing any kind of closed system. I think it'll be obviously an open system, so that way they can get the Bored Apes, they can get the CryptoPunks, they can get some of the bigger projects that are Psychedelics Anonymous is blowing up. I see it being an obviously not like the Veve, and I think it is Veve because I watched your video on that, and I've seen other people talk about that, and that looks fascinating because if Disney get away from that or open that up, and I don't know how they're going to do that with the interoperability of that blockchain. That would just be huge. Like, so many little, like, 10-year-old girls and boys are going to want stuff from Encanto and Frozen. Like, those two movies alone shut the club down. Like, I don't even care. Even if you don't have kids, you know how big those movies are.
Yeah.
And I tweeted the other day something that, it was like a joke. It was like, yeah, Coinbase's NFT platform is coming out. It's going to be called Closed Ocean, as a playoff, obviously, of like OpenSea. But obviously that's not the name of it. But I never thought about that they would even go far enough. But maybe there will be Coinbase exclusive NFTs where they'll only live on Coinbase, just as like a thing. But what's Instagram doing? Because I've heard about that, but I really don't know much about how they're trying to incorporate NFTs into the space. And I guess, what would that look like? Everyone's profile would then be their digital wallet, and then you could just see on one of the things you like their reels, their videos, their photos, and then it would just be like an NFT section. How are they gonna, like, do you have any idea what that's gonna look like?
I think it might be like that, because like I think there actually might be like a section, like an NFT section, and that would actually be huge, because like Instagram is already built to be the place where you show off, like where you flex your digital life. So if you're flexing like super rare NFTs, that's definitely going to like inflate the value of your account. I feel like Instagram would definitely go toward the route of being open, because Mark Zuckerberg, in his like metaverse keynote, he was very like pro, the metaverse needs to be open, like blockchain needs to be open, people need to be able to take their NFTs from world to world. So I can very much see like Instagram, maybe even more so than Coinbase, like bringing NFTs into the forefront. And I'm pretty sure both of them will let you purchase NFTs with money, so you might not have to go through Ethereum and like a whole bunch of other like stuff in order to do it, which is like so much friction as well, as I'm sure you know.
There's so much friction. I bought some NFTs off of Ethernity. I don't know if you've used Ethernity at all, but when it's Ethernity, I think .io, and they have their own blockchain, and you can buy NFTs there. You can either sometimes those NFTs are exclusive to their platform, and then other times they'll just put on Ethereum. But they have a similar thing where I feel like they're trying to make it their own social media, where you have your profile. It's very much like OpenSea, but they have exclusive kind of deals with people that come on. And I don't know, I'm running through my head. I hope, obviously, that Zuckerberg keeps it open with Instagram and Facebook, or I know, eventually he's going to have his own metaverse or whatever. But I want to shift gears a little bit away from NFTs and actually ask you, so when you talk with older people, they can't wrap their mind around maybe the value of a JPEG, for example. What are conversations like, and are there different questions when you talk with your peers? People that are, I'm assuming you're under 30, your mid 20s, you're kind of on the cusp of like millennial and Gen Z. What are the questions you get there that are like maybe surprising you? Because you're like, oh, I thought you would understand this because we're the same age.
It's interesting that my immediate peers, like as in the people like I hang out with every day, like my boys I just kick it with, because we're like 25, 26. They actually don't really care that much. They're very present focused. They're very like, the phone is the information thing, right? But then when you go a little bit younger to like the younger cousins, the 15, 14, 13-year-olds, and you start talking about the metaverse, they're like, oh, we've been in the metaverse. Like, I play video games online with my friends every night. So like they already understand it. So I was actually talking to this one lady in a consulting call. She was like, I don't understand why people would want to spend so much time in like this fake world, and they're like buying land in this fake world. It doesn't make any sense. And I was like, because she told me she had two sons, and I asked her, so do your sons like play video games? She's like, yeah, they come home from school, they do their homework, they play video games. And I asked her, do you know what they're doing online? And she was like, yeah, playing their game. I was like, well, yes, that, but also it's more important than that. They're hanging out with their friends. They're being social. And then she was like, so why they see their friends at school? Like, what's the difference? Well, like in 2022, a lot of parents aren't gonna like let their kids just like go chill at the park by themselves, you know, because that's just like the nature of society. So kids like are talking on Instagram, on TikTok, on Snapchat, on YouTube, and in the metaverse, in their video games. This one young guy was telling me, he's 22 and he has a business, and he like talks with his business partners like on video games and like in VR. And he was saying like, yeah, that's like how my grandpa, like when he talks with his buddies on the golf course, like this is the golf course. The metaverse is the golf course for people. So when you look at that through that perspective, you're just like, yo, this is popular with the young kids that are getting older. Like I want to buy as much like metaverse stuff as I can now, you know, because these old people don't get it, but the young people, they already know.
I just turned 35 and I am very much a millennial, and I feel like I saw something the other day that in the last 2 or 3 years, and I think a lot of this has to do with the pandemic, and obviously baby boomers are transitioning to retirement. Some baby boomers are transitioning and, you know, passing away. But for the first time, I think it happened in the last 2 or 3 years, and the pandemic definitely shifted this too, was that the millennials finally had more money, more like amassed wealth than the boomers. And then it was saying, you know, Gen Z is right behind, obviously, as far as like demographic and overall population. And they're going to have, you know, they're the next ones to then have the wealth and make all the decisions, and then, you know, make that decision. Am I going to buy a house in the real world, or are we going to buy a house in the metaverse? Because our end goal is to have more economic energy. And we think that a house in the metaverse is going to appreciate at this rate, whereas a house in the real world is going to appreciate this rate. And there's maintenance and there's taxes and there's all this stuff. And so, you know, you talk about your boys that you hang out with, the guys that you see, you know, that you see all the time, and your friends and stuff. What kind of decisions, like, what do they think about you spending hours on a couch talking to the spheres of the world of influence here? Or I guess we should probably just start calling this the metaverse. Like for me, this is the metaverse. We just don't have our goggles on. Like I have my Oculus, right? Like we could do that. This is just what we have now. And I think the only limiting thing from us to this kind of Ready Player One world is honestly just technology. Because if I could just chill with you and we could go walk around a golf course in the metaverse and do this, we would just do that. So what are the conversations that your friends have when you're like, hey, you know what? I need to go home because I'm working on my podcast, or I'm working on my YouTube, or I'm working on just content creation. What types of the things are they asking you about this stuff? Because I think the metaverse, especially, like I think NFTs, people are starting to like maybe understand it, but conceptually, the metaverse can seem like craziness.
All other questions are very just like, hey, have you heard of this NFT project? Or, you know, they're not like super interested. They're more interested in the fact that I'm making TikToks and that there is an audience there listening versus like what I'm talking about. Because I've always been like a video guy. Like ever since they've known me, I've been like making videos in some way, shape, or form. But when I try to explain it to them, I say like the way you navigate the world today, and this is probably more specifically with AR, augmented reality versus virtual reality, but still kind of the same. I say like the way you like navigate the world today is 100% or 95% your phone. Like you are reliant on your phone so much, like you don't even know. There is a layer of data that's just chilling on top of the globe that we can't even see. And it's just like, just waves of just data. And your phone is the window that lets you see this data. So when you're like walking somewhere and you're getting directions, your phone is like translating that like geographical like direction layers to a way that you can understand it. And then you walk into the Starbucks, and then your phone knows that you're in the Starbucks. So now you're like in the Starbucks layer and stuff. So you have all this like information coming at you based on your location, the time of day, like what your phone is tied to. You just can't see it unless you look down at your screen, and only the important stuff is shown to you when it needs to be seen. So in the future, all that stuff, or the most important stuff, is going to be in front of your face always. The time of day, where you are on the globe, your schedule, text messages, the rating of that Starbucks that you walked past that your glasses might think you might enjoy because you keep looking that direction. your friend's birth date or something. I keep saying that like in the future we're gonna wear glasses and we're gonna look at people that we know and they're just gonna have like profiles next to us, and people are like, oh well, that's so shallow. You don't remember your friend's birthday? Well, it's gonna be a thing. It's like Facebook. So it's gonna be like a name tag. So all that important information is gonna be in your face, and that in itself is the metaverse. Like Mark Zuckerberg said, I don't want to paint him as like the father of the metaverse because he's definitely 100% not that. But I feel like out of everybody that's being vocal in the space, he has the clearest vision for it so far, or at least he has the best way of articulating it. With that being said, all that AR data, all that VR data, the internet experience, but being immersed in it, that is the metaverse. And so as much as we are reliant on our phones for information, we're going to be reliant on the metaverse. Like walking your dog around the block and leaving your phone at home, you're probably going to be like, oh man, I got to get back home so I can check my messages, check my email. It's going to be the same way with your glasses. And when you take your glasses off, it's going to feel refreshing for a little bit. And then you're going to get anxiety, like you're missing out on stuff. It's going to be very unhealthy, but it's just going to be the way we live.
Yeah, the thing you just described was a drug.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's like the second you get away from it, you feel a little bit, there's some sort of a different dopamine shift, but then you're like, oh, I need that again. It's like the way I think they've engineered McDonald's, where what was that movie, Super Size Me, where the guy at McDonald's for a whole month and he would just talk about the highs and lows. Like when he finishes, he felt so good. And then like 30 minutes later, he felt like death. And an hour after, he was maybe even sick. But then 2 hours after, he was like, I kind of need that again. I need to find that high again. So it honestly sounds very much like a drug, which is, you know, I think what did Naval Ravikant say? Dopamine is the cheapest drug, or it's like the most distracting drug we have in society. The metaverse for me is something that I'm constantly thinking about. And I love the way that you've just like, thank you for that knowledge. Like I see thinking about the layer and now I'm here and then I'm in Starbucks. And then in the metaverse, that will just be my virtual experience through the glasses. Is there something about the metaverse that you think is going to be better than what we currently have today? Like the way that we do this thing is not as good as it will be in the metaverse.
Definitely things like Zoom calls are going to be vastly improved, because like not a lot of people think about this, but like you and I are having a conversation, but we're not looking at each other in the eyes. I'm like looking at, it looks like I'm looking at your chin, it looks like you're looking at my chin, like, and we just deal with that. But in the metaverse, it's going to be very like, there's going to be eye tracking. They're going to like figure out ways with like algorithms to be able to like make eye contact. So like little things like that are going to like make it a more realistic experience. So stuff like meetings for sure, possibly movies. I still think VR movies are kind of not awesome. Video games will be way better. I'm not a huge video game guy, but like that's just a given because video games are already good, so they're gonna be crazy. Things like navigation around the world is going to be better, probably going to be more accurate. Education is probably going to be vastly overhauled, because like how do you teach a kid something when they have like access to any answer like in front of their face at like the speed of light? So I think like education is going to be like maybe hopefully evolve to where like we teach people how to use the tools and work with the tools versus like how to live without the tools, because it's gonna be like unlikely that like you're without your glasses for that. That's how prominent I feel like the technology is going to be in our lives, because once like we get a taste of how much better or how much more, not easy, but I'm gonna say easy it is with it, then it's gonna be hard to put down. Like the phone right now, it's like when it first came out, when the iPhone first came out, like it was cool, but it couldn't do a whole lot. But now it can do everything, you know? So it's gonna be very much like that.
Is there anything that like you're not looking forward to, or an experience that we have now that will always be better than anything in the metaverse. Assuming the metaverse is like the virtual reality is, what we dream, essentially.
I think there's going to be a lot of mental health issues associated with the metaverse. I think anxiety is going to go way up. Social anxiety for sure. Depression. I think that right now, companies like Facebook, even TikTok, kind of like prey on the weaknesses of the brain. Like going back to dopamine, like that algorithm is just so good at making you feel good. But then you look up and you've been scrolling TikTok for 2 hours, like just being incredibly unproductive. And I think it's going to be like that in the metaverse. And that's going to cause a lot of people to be like, really just like not feeling great about like their place in society, because in real life, they, I don't know, they're like overweight, don't have a lot of friends. I don't know. They work at a shitty job. But in the metaverse, they're a rock star and they're like Mr. Popular and they're rich in cryptocurrency and they have the respect of all their peers. But then they got to go to work the next day and just live in like this dreary world. So there's going to be a lot of that. And I don't know how we're going to deal with that, but that's definitely going to be a thing.
A couple episodes ago, I was talking about how I think the metaverse could transform our world. And honestly, just taking like shots in the dark, I have no idea. I'm just putting ideas out there. Some of these things are kind of happening with like metaverse fashion. Some of these things are happening with sports, like the way we're going to integrate. And one of the things I was thinking is that there's a real situation here where meeting with a therapist, for example, meeting with a therapist could actually be more enhanced. You could also, because you're in a virtual reality space, and like you said, you have that eye contact, because it's a super meta comment you make, because here we are on a pod talking about like the metaverse, but I'm not looking, if I look at the camera, then I'm not looking at you, which is a very weird thing because eye contact is such a huge part of language. And so thinking about being able to see any therapist also, it's not just the one that I can get to on the subway or the one I can drive to down the street. Because maybe that only gives me therapists within 30-minute travel time, an hour total there and back, because we're not going to travel farther for therapy maybe. Or, we are humans at the end of the day. We do go towards the thing of least resistance. Like we like ease, like you were saying, or efficiency, or something that's comfortable. So maybe having access to therapists from all over the world because you maybe had a certain trauma or you have this certain thing. Now, the Web3, or in the metaverse, you'll be able to connect. And I don't want to conflate, those are two way different things, but you'll be able to connect with people that you wouldn't have in the future. So part of me is like, I completely agree. I think we already have The Social Dilemma on Netflix. I watched that and I was like, oh yeah, when I have kids, they're never going to use this stuff. Great. It also changed my use of it. I try to use it less. I try to have different parameters. I try not to after a certain time at night have it, because it just, you'll just sit there for 3 hours, like you said. But maybe on the other side, it will open up the possibility so you can get therapy from a therapist who's 2,000 miles away, or maybe in another country if they happen to be in England. But I do worry about that. But I want to shift back to crypto super quick. When it comes to crypto and your own investing, what are you is there a strategy you're trying to do? Is it like use the low caps to get some liquidity to then buy Bitcoin? Is it use the low caps to get more to then buy Ethereum? And I guess the question I want to ask you, which is there's no easy answer or right answer, but if you have $1 million and you can only buy Ethereum or Bitcoin to hold for the next 10 years, which one are you going for?
So my investment strategy currently, by the way, not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
So my thing is like every week I dollar cost average into Bitcoin, Ethereum. It's just $20 each. Not a whole lot, but whatever the price is, it just automatically grabs it for me every Saturday. I used to be doing what you said, just playing with the low caps, juicing up the account and then throwing it into Bitcoin, Ethereum. But I just got tired of losing money, just egregious amounts of money. And I was like, you know what, I gotta chill. This isn't cool anymore. So now I just I just invest like a smart person. And every now and again I might throw some money into a coin that I think could have the potential to pop off in a couple months, but I don't look at it every day like I used to. As for $1 million, follow-up question, would it be I gotta buy it in one day, or it's a dollar cost average thing?
That's okay. That's a good parameter to put on this hypothetical. Let's say over the next year,
Over the next year.
over the next year, I don't care how you buy it, but from what's today's date, April 12th till April 12th of 2023, you have to spend $1 million in either Bitcoin and Ethereum. And after you spend it, so if you buy it all at once, for example, today, after you spend it, you got to hold it for 10 years and you can't touch it. Which one do you think is gonna give you more paper at the end?
Okay, so my answer is actually different, and I'll tell you why for each. So if I were buying it all today, just like let's just buy it right now, I would just put it in Bitcoin and just like not look at it till 2032. If I was dollar cost averaging every day over the next year, it would go into Ethereum because I think I would get a better return on my money, at least in the first year. As for Bitcoin, Bitcoin is just like the big daddy of them all. Like I know it's going to be here when my grandchildren are around. So just like throw it in, like who cares? Ethereum, I feel like I would watch it a little bit more. So I don't want to dollar cost average into that.
I think that's actually a great strategy, and that's not the answer I thought you would ever come up with. But you added on the parameter, and you're totally right. Whether you dollar cost average or you buy something one time and then honestly just keep looking up to the stars and praying to whoever you want to pray to.
Yeah.
That's actually a phenomenal answer. And I want to give you the time because you have, I was listening to your podcast, Blockchain Boss, great name. I love alliteration. That's very nice. I want to give you a moment right now to shout out where people can find you. Because I obviously found you, we've been communicating on Instagram and I saw you on TikTok. But if you want to shout out all your stuff now would be a great time because I think hopefully people reach out and they're like, let me get on the phone with Bon and have him explain all this stuff to me again.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on TikTok and YouTube and Twitter. My name is Bon Jin. That's BonJenn. And my podcast is called Blockchain Boss, like you said. And I feel like I have another thing too. Also, if you go to my website, bonjen.io, you can book a call with me if you want to talk more. I love chatting about everything Web3, cryptocurrency, NFT, blockchains. I'll explain it for you in a very, very easy to understand manner. And yeah, other than that, I'm always posting content. I think I'm posting, I don't even know. It's really just a blur. I post like a TikTok at least like 5 times a week. Trying to post a YouTube video every week. Been slacking on that, but at least a couple times a month. And then a podcast every week. So lots of content all over the place.
Lots of content. I love it. I love following you, and I'm excited because, like I said, I'm gonna have an NFT, a guest exclusive NFT, so you'll be a part of that community. And I'm working on the roadmap, but I'm not. It's not a rush. It's a process. So
phenomenal.
Thank you for coming on once again, and yeah, I'm excited to continue to see you grow as a content creator.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and be sure to check out Bon Jen on social media and visit his website at bonjenn.io. There you'll find more info on all of his socials and how to get in contact with him for client consulting calls. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend, family member, or colleague via a text, email, or DM. And as always, be sure to follow us on social media at More Than Blockchain and subscribe to the pod wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.